Hello everyone, I'm Olivia. Today my topic of presentation is my cultural identity. I will divide my presentation into 5 parts: introduction, conclusion, and 3 cultural identities. This is my outline. Now let's begin. According to the introduction of Nathaniel and his partners, culture is the collective programming of the mind that distinguishes the members of one group or category of people from others. The environment we grew up in, the language we say, the environment we live in, our nationality, and other factors can all influence our cultural identity. Under the dynamic influence of multi-level cultures, we seek a common ground while resolving differences to become what we are now and have a unique cultural identity. Anyway, we are different and special. To be honest, because of the unique growing experience, I don't have a relatively fixed home. I speak 5 dialects in total and am also a dual language speaker. In addition, the multicultural living condition has created another intercultural identity for me. Besides, as a natural Chinese citizen, I have similarities and differences with the overall situation of Chinese society, defined by hostile insights. Firstly, my hometown is Xi'an City, Shanxi Province, a famous historical and cultural city with the ancient capital of the 8th dynasty title. But I studied in Nanyang, Henan Province and took the college entrance examination in Henan. My father is from Henan, but my mother is from Sichuan Province, a typical province in southwest China. Under her influence, I also speak the Sichuan dialect fluently. After graduating from high school, I moved with my parents to live in Tianjin, which is next to Beijing. Now I go to university in Beijing and try to learn the local dialect. Based on the Beijing dialect, Mandarin is the Chinese official language, which is the 6th language variant I speak in the Chinese language family. According to the definition of language by Hakim, language is an original noise used in actual social situations by human beings. In other words, language is bounded by culture to some degree. Chinese has a typical high context culture, and my original intention of learning dialects may be to cater this culture. In addition, Chinese students are required to learn English, the international common language. So I'm a dual language speaker to some degree. Affected by the foreign language effect and the multi-dialectical environment, my speaking style often has obvious north-south pronunciation switching and code frame switching. Secondly, my living habits and dietary preference also show my other cultural identity through the multicultural instrument I learned and the multicultural diet I prefer. I can play 6 kinds of musical instruments, among which violin and piano are foreign instruments. Guqin, cucurbitte flute, qinqin, and erhu are traditional Chinese instruments. Among them, qinqin is a very special folk musical instrument in my hometown of Shanxi Province. I learned this instrument to meet the needs of my grandmother to perform qinqiang, a traditional opera in Shanxi Province. In addition, the multicultural diets with both domestic and overseas cultural sources greatly influenced by dietary preference. From the perspective of the domestic diet, Chinese diet culture has obvious gaps between the north and the south. Shanxi cuisine is my favorite northern cuisine, and Sichuan cuisine is my favorite southern cuisine. There are also obvious gaps between Chinese and overseas diet cultures. I like Japanese food, French food, and Western coffee culture very much. In contrast, the Chinese specialty culture is also one of my favorite diet cultures. From the SWOT cultural module, I can identify my cultural identity more clearly. Learning qinqin is my grandmother's request, and learning other instruments was for my own interests. Harmonic culture is a typical part of Chinese culture, and intercultural things are always present in every aspect of our daily life. Just like Yoshitaka says, mutual adaptation is the key to harmonic culture. In the hierarchy aspect, I must say most of the time I speak Mandarin in public because of the government regulations, but when everyone around me spoke dialect or English, I needed to switch the language to further integrate into the group. This situation can also be found in my eating habits, and I think this may be also what the requirements of Chinese harmonic culture. Thirdly, we seem to be born with our own citizenship, just like myself. I'm born a Chinese and I have the membership and belonging that the country brings to me. I also have equal status from the legal perspective, which becomes a prerequisite for me to enjoy civic rights and undertake the duties. Confucian culture is the foundation of my education and a major foundation of Chinese society. Although there are various regional changes in my growing experience, they all share a common Chinese culture atmosphere. From Hofstede's five-dimensional theory of culture and Hofstede's Insights offshore website, I also found some differences between myself and the Chinese overall situation. For example, although I'm a female, I have long broken away from the traditional Chinese definition and stereotype of females. I'm free and confident. My working and studying style are often considered masculine. Neither male or female can be defined or labeled. That is to say, although I'm Chinese, I also have my own uniqueness under the premise of having the general cultural characteristics of Chinese people. I have to admit that there are obvious differences in pronunciation and dialect in northern and southern China. Therefore, people generally can't tell whether I belong to the north or south from my accent and eating habits. I have been identified as a southerner in my university and Chinese as Japanese on the streets of England. Also, after getting an American education and learning English in depth, my code switching has also become a bit of an issue that affects my daily communication. I have to say, in countless reflections, I want to find a sense of cultural belonging in a region, and in countless reflections, I also deny where my culture belongs. In fact, when studying this course of intercultural communication, I suddenly understand a truth. As I mentioned in the introduction, under the dynamic influence of multi-level cultures, we seek common ground when resolving differences to become what we are now and have a unique cultural identity. Just because of my unique upbringing, a long-term influence of the multicultural environment in various spheres, and my innate identity as a Chinese, I have become a unique person. This is my reference page. That's all about my presentation, and thank you for watching and listening.